What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the workshop. Now, the purpose of this video is going to be twofold. I'm going to show you guys how to build these Shoji lamps. So I've kept the design nice and simple. I've made 6 of them. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. And the second part of what this video is going to be about is trying to answer the question, can I make any money at woodworking? So as long-time viewers of my channel will know, I have been an electrician for 25 years. I have been self-employed for 20 of those years. So I know what I have to charge hourly rate in order to make a living, because I've been doing it for 20 years. So I have that experience. I'm going to share that experience with you guys at the end of this video. So we're going to keep track of the hours that were put into this and every single piece of material that was used on these lamps. We're going to come up with a figure at the end of this video of exactly what I would have to charge for each of these lamps in order to make a living doing this. Not saying I'm going to make a living doing this, but I'm just going to apply what I know from being 20 years self-employed. And I'm also going to show you how to make these. So without further ado, let's crack on and build some beautiful Shoji lamps. Let's do it. Right guys, let's crack on with this project. Hopefully I've explained the premise of the video already. Now I have some already prepared stock. So I have a couple of boards that I had spare, and I've just taken these two, the maple and the walnut. I've taken them through the plane. I didn't want to bore you guys with that. So I've probably put about a half an hour worth of labor so far into doing these, and these I've already had. And I have a few pieces left over from when the last time I made some kumiko patterns and some lamps. So we'll try and incorporate that in as well, and we'll account for the labor that went into that. So I've got to start ripping stuff down now. So we need, for our frame, we need 20 by 20. That's roughly 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. And we need 10 mil by 10 mil as well, pieces. So I'm not sure what that is in inches, guys. You'll have to look it up. I can't think of it off the top of my head. So anyway, without further ado, let's start ripping everything down and let's get as many components out of these pieces as we can get. Okay guys, I've just got a lot of ripping to do here now. So I'm going to cut my 10 by 10 pieces first. I'm going to use these pieces that I already have in the workshop to rip all my 10 by 10s out of it. So I've just set my fence at 10 mil. I'm going to use my sacrificial kind of push sticks. This will hold that material down. I can run this over the blade and keep my hand away from it to push that 10 mil piece out. You just got to be careful when you're cutting really narrow strips like this. Just make sure that the piece is held correctly. So it's just lots of ripping here. So I'm going to crack on and do it. Okay guys, that's all my 10 by 10s that I'm going to do for now. So you can get quite a lot of these out of a small piece of a board. Now, these boards were already planed to 20 mil in thickness. So splitting them, because of the curve of the blade, I couldn't get 10 mil either side. So these are all 10 by 9. So again, I'm just using up what I have in the workshop, but if I was to do this again and I was starting with an unplaned board, I would make sure to leave this at 23 mil, which would allow for the curve of the blade, which means I would get double the amount out of every board. So these still can be used. It just means I have to plane a millimeter off one side, and they'll be 9 millimeter by 9 millimeter rather than 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter. Sorry, but I'm using what I have in the shop, and this is kind of just an experiment for how much labor goes into this. So as you can see, you could get quite a lot of the 10 by 10s out of a small board. So on to the next part, 20 by 20s. I'm going to rip my maple 20 by 20, and just to make sure that these are perfectly square, I'm just going to use the actual board to set up my fence. And then when I run that through, I have perfectly square pieces coming off this. Okay guys, all the 20 by 20s are now cut, and some of them have actually cut curved a small bit. As soon as I cut through them, a lot of tension was released. And that one, for instance, yeah, they have curved just a touch, but we'll be cutting these in half, so it might not matter. So far, stock prep and dimensioning 10 by 10s and 20 by 20s has taken 1 hour. So you could do a lot more. Again, I'm just trying to gauge and get a feel for this as I go along. If I had to mention all the timbers up correctly, you could run, you could run through these, just spend a half a day or so just dimensioning, and you could have enough to build 20 or 30 lamps, no problem. Just everything on the table saw. So let's crack on. Now it's time to move on to the lime wood. So this is what I'm going to be using for the kumiko frames. It's very, very easy to carve and work with this stuff. It's like basswood, I suppose is what you call it in the United States. It's lime wood over here. So I got to dimension this up now into my kumiko strips. I have some walnut kumiko strips, and because I'm not doing a detailed decorative pattern, I'm only going to do like a square box pattern. I'm going to use the walnut strips inside in the maple frame, so that would be a lovely contrast. So let's crack on and do it. Okay guys, my kumiko strips. So I never explained in the last video where I actually made the Shoji lamp. A lot of you guys asked me how did I actually make these. So the kumiko strips need to be the width of the saw blade. So that's exactly what it is. It's just over 3 millimeters thick. So I've used that kumiko strip just to set my fence there. And I just rip strips off this then at that thickness. Now, this is where your sacrificial push stick comes into play here. And then I'm just going to rip these down at 10 millimeters. Now you can do this on the table saw. You will lose 3 millimeters each time. So it can be a little bit on the wasteful side. It is the most accurate way of doing it. I'm going to chance it on the bandsaw just because it has a slightly finer curve. I just want to see what kind of a cut I'm going to get off the bandsaw. If not, I will return to the table saw and I just have to accept the fact that I'm losing 3 mil with each cut. So that's how I've done it. There's not much to it. Again, it's just rip this down. It's a nice soft wood, so it's pretty easy to cut. So I'll crack on and do that. Just something to point out there, guys, I am using a 0 clearance insert because those strips that we're cutting are very, very thin. So the standard insert that comes with this, that would slip down the side of the blade and that would not be very safe at all. So I have my 0 clearance insert in place for these. Okay guys, that is all my kumiko strips cut. I have a good few there. I decided to do it on the table, so I wasn't happy with the cut on the bandsaw. So I was happy enough. It was quicker, more accurate on the table saw. So you can factor that against the cost of the material, a little bit that you're losing on the curve of the blade each time, against your own time. So it was a lot quicker. Now, it's a very thin material, so I have to keep pressure at the point of where that blade meets contact with the material at all times. So I had the piece, the sacrificial push stick, just keeping the weight on it the whole way through the cut, because obviously the blade can pick that up. There's no weight in it. But yeah, no issues. They're all cut. Now, that's 2 hours work to prepare all stock. Now, there's a bit of prep work on all these as well. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of hand planing on some of these just to take the saw marks off them. So we have some prep work to do. Okay guys, it's the following day. I'm about 4 hours into this project now, so I had to go and get some materials, so there was a bit of time involved in that. There was some design elements that I was working on last night, so I have to factor that time in as well. And I was just doing a few test runs with my kumiko jig, and I've made my pattern. So now there's a bit of explanation to go on here. I want to show you guys how to actually do this. I didn't explain it when I made the Asanoa pattern. I just kind of showed how to do it, but I didn't go in depth, and a lot of people asked me about the jig that I've made. So I want to explain this whole process to you guys, so you're going to have to bear with me because there is a little bit involved in this. It's not complicated, and once you're all set up to go, you can really batch this stuff out. So let me get you in for a closer look. I'll show you what we're going to make, and then I'm going to take you and show you the jig and how that works. Okay guys, here is my previous kumiko pattern for the last shoji lamp I made. So that's the Asanoa pattern in the middle. Now that's where all the hard work is. There's a lot of work and labor involved in this, and you have to make kumiko jigs at all different angles to be able to cut this stuff. So, but the grid itself is very, very easy to make once you understand the concept. So this is the pattern I'm going to use for all my lamps that I'm making now. So it's just a nice grid pattern, some squares, and we have 2 pieces cut short either side, just as a little detail. You would often see shoji lamps made just like this with similar patterns, not quite the same, but similar. So this is going to be nice and quick and easy to make once we get set up. Now, I'll take you through how this is done. It's quite easy, and hopefully you guys will get the concept. So my grids are based on 10 millimeters. So I have a cut, I have my jig set up so that I have 10 millimeter spacings on my jig. I'll show you that in a second. So it's my first cut happens here, then I measure over 20 millimeters, second cut 20 millimeters. I do the same from the other end. I have my pieces cut, so the overall length of this is 200 millimeters. You want to leave a little bit of an overhang both ends. So I've chopped a load of pieces at 220 millimeters, so that gives me a 10 mil overhang on each end, just so I have a bit of material to do my first cut here. And when this is all glued up, we'll be squaring this all off. So it'll be nice and square like this. Then I have another bunch of pieces, so it's 120 millimeters in width, so we've cut a load of those as well. And once we get set up, I'm going to take you to the jig now and show you, and hopefully you guys will get this concept. You will see exactly how easy this is to do. So again, remember, it's all based on 10 millimeter increments, and we can lay out a grid that way. So let me take you to the jig now, and this will all start to make sense. Actually, just before we get to the jig, there's one more thing to show you. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 upright pieces. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. So I'm going to make sure they are all even. And because I have no cuts in the middle, I'm just going to take a bit of tape. So this is Wishi paper tape. So I think it's made from rice paper. Something similar to the paper I'll be using for the shoji lamp. So it's just painter tape, but it's good quality one. And it's low adhesive, so it's great for this kind of stuff. It doesn't get stuck to everything. So just make sure all the ends are squared up. And I'm just going to tape them all together so that we can cut all 5 of them at once. So just like that. Now I'm going to do the same for our cross pieces. So we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we take 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, because we've got lots of cuts in the middle, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take some of that tape. I'm going to split it in half, and I'm just going to tape both ends, and we get set up, and then we get over to the jig. Now, sorry, this is getting a bit long, but this is important to try and show you how this all works. Okay guys, here is my jig. If you've watched my last video, you'll have seen me use this. Now I didn't show how to make this jig, so I'm going to explain how I've made it in this video. So as you can see here, I have my first cut, which is where my blade runs through. Now in order to make this, you make the bottom piece first. So all these cuts here are set at half the depth of my kumiko. So my kumiko is 10 millimeters wide, so all these cuts are only cut to 5 millimeters. Now, this is a 12 millimeter piece of plywood. So do your first cut. I measured in 20 mil because none of my my first cuts will ever be smaller than 20 mil. So I'm always going to want my squares to be that size, never smaller than that. So my first squares will always be 20 mil. So my first cut after here is always going to be a 20 mil spacing. So I didn't put a 10 mil here. After that then, every 10 millimeters I've put a cut. Once that's done, don't cut all the way through here first. Again, only cut your very first cut, which our blade runs into, at half depth as well. Then you put on your fence. Once your fence is on and it's fixed to this part, you can run that cut all the way through. Now, if you see right here where it runs through the back part of the fence, that is exactly 5 millimeters high. So when I put this jig now in place, I can use that as a little depth stop to actually set the height of my blade. So once the height of my blade is just touching my top of my fence there, I know I'm the correct height. So I'm 5 millimeters above this piece of plywood, if that makes sense. So when I'm making my cut then, I do my first cut there. Then I have my key, which I've cut. So I can go 20 millimeters, 20 millimeters, just like that. Or if I do something like this, I can go 20, 20, 20. Now my next one over here was actually 40, so I can move that into the 40 slot. And I can move that to there, you see. So there, it's just a 10 millimeters. It gives me a 10 millimeter spacing. I can add 10 millimeters, and it's just you moving that key to the different sizes to get your grid pattern. Now, hopefully, guys, you're starting to understand this. Now, let's make this piece. So, I've pulled this apart, and you can see where all my cuts are. So my first cut, it's nice and simple. It's 20 mil, 20 mil, 20 mil, and I do the same then from this end. So I know my total length is 200 millimeters. So the end of this cut is at 200 mil, and then I can work back in. So cut, 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 measure in, cut, cut, cut. And again, I'm only using the 20 millimeters on this, just like that. And I have all my pieces taped together, so I'm cutting all 5 uprights at once. So it's nice and quick and easy to batch them out. Then I can cut all my cross pieces. I've them taped at the end because all my cuts are in the middle, and I can batch these out as well. And if you look at the actual design, these pieces, when you flip them around, they're the exact same. So the squares, I've taken this out now, so it's the exact same thing both sides, even though these are opposite each other. If you think about it, move that piece around to up here, it's the exact same. That's why I designed it this way, so that the 3 of these are the very same cuts as the 3 of these, and we can do all 6 together. So hopefully, guys, I've done a good job of explaining that, and I'm sorry now I'm waffling on here a bit, but you know, I just want to make sure you guys understand exactly what it is I'm doing here. So let's crack on, let's do all our cuts, and I'll assemble this, and you guys will see how it all happens. Okay guys, there are all my pieces cut. Now, I'm actually going to remake this jig in future. I'm going to have a lot more spacings all the way out to the end. It's just because the space in the middle of this grid is long. It didn't occur in the last grid because I had cuts here and here as well, so I was able to add enough spacings here. So I cut at 20, 20 and 20, and then I have a larger spacing here which I can't get out to, so I would have to be out to here. So I've cut a piece, and I'm going to use this as my key piece now. So that's how I marked my other end. So I did my cuts, my cuts, my cuts. I marked that end, and that's how I knew which end, where to start from this side when I flipped it over, if you get what I mean. So make a piece, use this as your key so that you're copying this every single time, and have a key piece for one of your cross pieces as well. So that's how I'm doing it, making sure that every grid I make is exactly the same. Right guys, when it comes to assembly, it's just nice and simple. Just pull this off. Take off our masking tape off both ends. Okay, we just have our 4 outer uprights. And then we can put this together just like this. Now, these go together pretty tight. They don't really require glue. On the final assembly, I will actually put just a little dab of glue on them. But like I said, they really don't require any glue. They go together so nice. And I had a friction fit within the frame as well. So I never actually glued in my kumiko frames into my walnut frame. Because like I said, they to get a beautiful friction fit. Now, a very important thing as well to point out is make all your kumiko frames first. Then from this dimension, you can build your actual lamp frame that this sits inside. Just in case there's any discrepancy with your jig, once you have the final dimensions of this, then you know what your final dimensions of your actual lamp frame is going to be. So yeah, make these first. Now, with our final upright piece, then all we've got to do is cut this exactly in half, and that'll give us our 2 pieces. And so you can see this notch ends up here, this notch ends up over this side. So these 6 pieces are absolutely identical. They're just flipped around. Let me cut this in half. There we go, guys. That is it. That's essentially our frame made. And like I said, these really do not need to be glued. They get such a good friction tight fit. And you can see why I've kept them exactly the width of the curve of the blade so that they all slot together. So yeah, there we go. There's our grid made. Now I have a whole bunch of these to get on and make, so I will do that. Okay guys, quick catch up to where I'm at. So I've cut up all my kumiko. I actually had to go and cut more kumiko strips. You would be amazed at how much you actually need to make these lamps. It doesn't look like much, but it is a lot. So the short cuts, I need 36 of those per lamp. And for the long cuts, I need 20. So 4 sets of 5. We need six sets of 6 for the short ones. And the beauty of this design as well, I forgot to show you, but the top piece is going to be made from all the short pieces. So we don't have to do any more cutting for the top piece. I'll show you guys in a second. So it's just the exact same thing that I've showed you for cutting these, for making the top section, just the square that sits on the top. So I'm going to crack on now and notch all these. I have enough to do 6 lamps. So I'm going to do 4 lamps with the lime wood kumiko, and I'm going to do 2 lamps with the walnut kumiko. So yeah, I shall see when I have all these notched. Okay guys, I am on to the assembly part. So I have them all notched there now, just like I showed you on the crosscut sled using the jig. So I am 5 hours in today in total, so it's Saturday. I started at 9 o'clock this morning. It's 3:30. I kind of had half an hour for lunch and a few other things, so about 5 hours in total I have put in today. So that's 7 hours in total so far. My hope is to get these done in a total of 24 hours, and then I can keep them at a kind of a reasonable price, hopefully, but we shall see. Again, it's all experimentation. So it's a case of assembling. I'll get you in for a closer look, show you what I'm doing here, and then I'll crack on and get all this assembled. Likewise, just when it comes to assembling, I'm just going to put a little dab of glue just in each one. They don't really need it, but you know, if you're going to sell these things, you don't want to come back apart. And yeah, like a little dab of glue is all we're going to put on it. So just have a little stick cut here, just for dabbing it in. Just got to be careful with the ends because there's a lot of short grain there and they can snap off. But we'll be cutting them off anyway. But we don't want them to break off just yet before we flush cut them. So yeah, just a little dab of glue. And just get everything assembled. I'm just assembling everything on this piece of plywood because I just want to keep any glue from going onto my workbench. So they can be a little bit on the tight side, so just a little tap down with the hammer just to get everything to sit in, and just keep going. Again, just be careful, kind of keep it even across the whole way when you're tapping it down, because if it's too much up on this side, you go to hit it down, you can snap it in the middle. So again, just be delicate with them. When it's all together and it's in the frame, it's pretty strong, but when they're out here in individual pieces, they can be a little bit delicate. That's the wrong piece, John. Pay attention. There we go, guys. That's it assembled. So I have another 22 of them to go. So I crack on, I'll make the 22 of these, and then when it comes to assembling the top piece, we'll jump in and show you how that's done. Hi guys, it is the following morning, so I spent 8 hours yesterday assembling, so I'm on to the last piece to assemble. I'll show you, it's actually the top pieces. Very, very simple. We're going to use, like I said, the exact same pieces that we used to go across here. We'll do the top as well, so that's the nice thing. It's kind of an efficient design in that respect. So I have all the frames now made up, the walnut and the lime wood frames. So I'm just assembling the last piece for the top here. I'll just get you guys in for a closer look and you can see how this goes together. Very, very simple. It's basically the same as the side frame. Let's do it. Okay, so for our top frame, as you can see it there, it's just nice and simple. We're just using these exact same pieces that we put across here. Because we've joined these together in both directions, that gives us our square, so it's going to be the width of the rectangle shape, if that makes sense. It's very, very simple. So we're going to have 3 to the one side, 2 to the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 2 down here, and again it just goes together, and that makes a perfect square for the top of our Shoji lamp. And again, we're using all the same pieces, so it makes the design that bit more efficient. So again, I'm just using a little dab of glue just in each one. Now these go together, like I said, so tight that the glue is not really needed, but it won't hurt either to have a little dab of glue on it. And these ones go together really fast. It's all glued up. Let's pop them in place, just like that. And then gently, we're just going to tap everything down. So just like that, there's our top frame. So I'll let the glue set up on that now, and then we can come along. We'll have to flush trim off all the edges of these. Put some sandpaper on this plywood and sand both faces down, and yeah, that will be the frames then finished. Now I can get on to build the actual frame of the lamp. Hey guys, my next task is just trimming off all these edges. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting off one side, and then I'm taking it to the crosscut sled and I'm trimming off the other 3 sides. So trim one side so this can rest against my fence, because obviously these are all different sizes sticking out, so there's no square or straight edge. So I'm making a straight edge and take them all to the crosscut sled then and chew them all up. Okay guys, I have all my frames trimmed up now. Just one thing when you're doing that, you're cutting very small little pieces and they can fly around, so make sure you have eye protection on when you're doing that, because they can fly off the blade. Just be aware of that. You should have eye protection on always when you're using your table saw anyway, but you really need it when you're cutting tiny little pieces like that. Now, I'm going to cut the frames. I'm going to make up the frames for the lamp, the actual body of the lamp itself. So these are going to be the main legs, the 20 by 20s. So I'm going to cut these at 300 millimeters. So I have my stop block set up here. Just going to just batch these out. 300 millimeters, that's about 12 inches. So that's a nice height for a lamp. So we have to cut those. And then I have the smaller pieces, the 10 by 10s. These are cut at 180 millimeters. So I'm going to get chopping all these on the crosscut sled. Then we'll do the joinery, and then it's time for sanding all the pieces. So let's crack on. Right guys, moving on to the joinery. Now we have to make our lampshade frame. So we have 2 sections to make for each lamp out of the 10 by 10s. So this is what's going to give the size to our entire lamp. And we're going to use the dimensions of our kumiko frame to set up our measurements here. So my kumiko frame is exactly 120 by 120. These pieces are 180 millimeters long. So I have to come in 30 millimeters exactly to the end to do my first cut. So there's going to be 2 half lap joints in all these pieces. It's the same cut in all pieces. They're just going to sit down into them just like that. So let me just get you zoomed in here to show you what I'm doing, because you can get caught out here, and there's a way of setting this up to make it really fast. Okay guys, so I have a little test piece here. So what I've done is I've measured across 30 millimeters to my stop block. Now you have to be careful here that you're measuring from this side of your curve, of this side of the blade, not this side, because if you measure from this side, you're adding 3 millimeters of the blade as well. So I have it set up at 30 mil, so I'm going to run my first cut. You can see it right there. Now, you might think that you can just add the thickness of one of the pieces for your half lamp joint between you and your stop block, between this piece and the stop block. But you can't do that because what you've actually done here now is you've added the thickness of this piece plus the thickness of the blade. This is where you'll get caught out. Ask me how I know. I have messed up pieces doing this before, thinking if I just put that in there, oh well, that moves it over exactly the width of the piece. It doesn't. It moves it over exactly the width of the piece plus the width of the blade, so your half lap joint will be 3 millimeters too big. So what I have done instead is ripped down one of these pieces minus the width of the blade. So it's your 10 by 10 minus the 3 mil of the blade, which gives me this piece here. Now that allows me to put my spacer in here and move me exactly to where I need to be, so that this is exactly the width of one of these pieces. It's actually a tight fit there, but that's exactly what you need to do anyway. So just be careful of that. Don't add in this piece because you're adding the width of your piece plus the width of the blade. So you have to cut yourself just a little spacer that's minus the width of the blade. Hopefully that makes sense, and that will keep you out of trouble. Okay guys, we are on to the joinery for the legs. Now this is nice and simple as well. So I'm doing my first cut. It's 35 mil down, so I'm leaving about 25 mil or 1 inch above the top frame. So again, it's just set this up, do my cut, use my spacer, do my other cut. Then I just want to rotate this around. Same thing again, cut, spacer, cut, and then just hog out the material that's in the middle. So you can see we have a cut through here and we have a cut through here, and our frame then will sit into this. So it's nice and simple. And then I want to do another thing on this end, which is exactly the length of our frame. So our distance between our two cuts will be our frame, our kumiko frame. So that's how I know my measurement there. And so I will set my stop block up and repeat all these cuts. So I've batched them all out, as you can see. I've done all the top cuts first, and then I will move the stop block and I will do all the bottom cuts. So nice and handy. Crack on and do a few more of these. Okay guys, I have most of the joinery now complete. I am about 18 hours into this project now at this stage, making these 5 Shoji lamps. So 18 hours in total to get to everything that you now see on this table. So all the frames are made, all the legs, all the joinery is cut in the legs, all the joinery is cut in the top and bottom frames for each of the lamps. And I just need to fettle everything now and get everything fitting together. So just with a sheet of sandpaper, I'm just dressing all the kumiko frames, just all the sides, just getting them nice and smooth, and then just doing the face, front and back. And yeah, I have a good bit of work to do here now. So what I'm going to do is start organising all these pieces into packs for each lamp, get everything fitting, get everything fit to its legs, and then those pieces will stay together now throughout the rest of the build. So almost everything is made. The last piece I have to make now is the piece that goes across the bottom for the lamp itself. So I have to put a piece across one of these frames to hold my lamp holder. But yeah, I'm going to crack on and sand everything now, get everything fettled up, everything fitted so that each components are all fitting to their correct lamp. And then I'm going to make that last piece. And then it's on to the electrics. So I have a few hours ahead of me here sanding. So yeah, I'll crack on with that. And I'll jump back in when I'm assembling these things. Right, it is a few days later. I am 20 hours now into this project, so I think my 24-hour time frame might have been a bit ambitious. I think it's going to be closer to 30 hours by the time these are finished. So I've just assembled all the lamps, dry fitted everything. I'm just using the shooting board here just to address the kumiko frames so that they're sitting perfectly within the lamp frames. And all these components now will remain together in each of these lamps. So I'll get you in for a closer look. I have one just taken apart here. I just want to show you the joinery and how I'm going to fit the part for holding the lamp holder itself. Let me show you that. Okay guys, so you can see here how this all goes together. So you can see the half lap joints in our top and bottom frame. You can see then how they actually sit into the leg, just like that. So it's nice and simple. There's not much to the joinery on this. There's no complicated joints. It's just really half laps and trenching of the legs so that the corners sit right into the corner here. Now, this is the piece for holding the lamp itself. I'll just grab one of the lamps there. So I have brass lamp holders, bayonet cap type. So they are going to sit there just like that. So what I've done, so I've just put a half lap in the end of each of these. I'm going to take these and just put a little half lap in them as well, so that will sit in there. Now I've done this on the crosscut sled. You've seen me cut all these on the crosscut sled, so I didn't show this because you don't want to be watching me on the crosscut sled for the entire video. So that's how they are going to sit in there. So disassemble these now, cut 2 more half laps or trenches in that, and they will sit down flush into that, and that will hold our lamp holder right in the middle. So yeah, I'm going to crack on guys and do that, and when I have all that done, we'll jump back in. Right guys, let's catch you up to where I'm at. I've gave everything its initial sanding and I've glued up all the frames. Now, I've applied pressure to the frames with the clamp so it closed those gaps up a little bit more, so the kumiko frames are just a little bit tight. So again, I'm just on the shooting board, I'm just the barest bit. I'm just taking them off just to get that nice snug fit. I will use a little bit of glue to hold these in place, but I do want a good friction fit on these, so they are just fitting in there now. So I'm going to go around and just get all these frames fitting perfectly, and I'm going to get a finish on the frames, and then I will jump back in when it's time to put on the shoji paper. So it's just a little bit of shooting board work, get all these fettled up yet again. Right guys, it is a few days later again, and my 24-hour estimate for this job has gone straight out the window. It's going to end up being more like 40 hours, but this is the slowest part. So like I said, I gave everything as initial sanding, glued it all up, and now I'm just getting the finish. So I'm just trying to go over everything again just to get all the glue marks off, stop any blotches in the finish, and it's very, very time consuming. It's about 2 hours per lamp almost, just prepping everything for its finish. I'm also just chamfering the edges around the top and the bottom of the feet and around where the protruding frame is as well, just for a little detail, just using the small little block paint to do that. You would have seen me do that on a previous lamp. And I have just fit the shoji paper to one of the lamps, so this one is nearly finished. So the next thing I'm going to do guys is get all the finish on all these. I won't bore you with that, and then I'm going to show you how to apply the shoji paper to the frames. So this is where I'm at. I have more work to do yet. Okay guys, it is many days later. I'm on to the last of the shoji paper going onto the kumiko frame. So I'm just going to show you guys quickly how I do that and what I'm using. Hopefully you're all still here and you're finding this interesting and informative. But all the shoji papers, all the rest of the frames, so they're just drying down there now. So I'm doing the last of them. So get you in for a closer look and show you what I'm doing. Right guys, we'll do one of these. This is very, very simple. There's not much to this. So I'm using this nori paste. So this is made in Japan and it's designed for this shoji paper. So it's a slow drying paste. It also dries clear, so it doesn't discolor the paper in any way, shape or form. And yeah, it's kind of like, it's a little bit like wallpaper paste for all the world. Like I said, it dries clear and doesn't stain the paper, so that's important. So that's it, nori paste. Perfect paste for the perfect project, it says. So yeah, now just a little small paintbrush here. I have my cutting mat, so I'm just putting my pieces down and just cutting a piece around it, leaving it slightly oversized. So I just have a Stanley blade here, and I'm just cutting this out on the cutting mat, like so. So again, we want to leave it oversized, and when this is all dry, we will trim this back. So I want to kind of apply this liberally. It doesn't spread too well onto the wood itself, so you kind of have to just lay it on. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm just kind of rolling the brush as I go, just trying to lay this on rather than brush it on, because like I said, it doesn't brush on too well onto the wood. But yeah, there's not much more to it like this. I'm just going to go around all the frame. It's a little bit time consuming, but not too bad. And once we're all the way around the frame, then it's only a case of just drop it in place and stick it on. Just put a little bit of weight on top of it to make sure it sets, and it's happy days. So I'll continue on now and get all this on the frame, and we'll drop it on the paper. So we'll fast forward this bit. Okay, now that I have my paste all the way around my frame, it's just a case of drop this in place. So just drop it straight on like so. Apply some pressure, make sure we push it down and it's making contact with the kumiko frame all the way around. Nice and simple. A little bit of pressure on it. And there we go. That's it. You can see it kind of come through the paper there, but it dries. You won't see that. It doesn't stain the paper. Now it dries really hard, but it does take an hour or two, so it's a slow setting glue. But that's all there is to it. And when it's done, we can just trim this back to size. So I'll crack on now and do the rest of these. Okay guys, I have a few frames that are already dry. So again, just going to use the frame to trim it. Now start from the center and work your way back from the edge, because if you start from the edge, you can tend to drag that piece of paper and you can tend to pull it off. So just start from the inside and work back to the outside, and that way you won't drag that piece of paper in. You will get a much neater cut. Again, it's just nice and fast. Work your way outwards rather than trying to pull inwards. That's what I found to be a good technique. Just like that, and that's it. Frames are nice and trimmed. Now, I have seen some people recommend you spray these with some water, and as you let them dry out, then the paper tightens up even more. But my paper is pretty tight, so I think I'm okay in that regards. But if you have any creases or anything in your paper, like I said, you can spray this with water, let it dry, and the paper then stretches out again. But I'm pretty good, I think. Okay guys, all the kumiko frames are done, all the shoji paper is now on, and I'm busy doing the electrics. This is the final part of this build. So I'm not going to go too much into doing the electrics for these lamps because this video is getting way too long. I have a full lamp instruction video about all the electrics you need to know about lamps and how to install them. That's a standalone video, so you guys will watch that. I'll just get you in for a close-up. I'll show you the components that I'm using, and then I'm going to crack on and wire these lamps. So don't forget, there's a full how to wire lamps video that I've already done, so I don't want to cover it, and I'm just worried this video might be getting a bit too long, and you guys might be want to see these things get finished, as do I, believe me. So let me just show you the components. I'll show you what I'm using, and I'll crack on and do it. Okay guys, just the components for each lamp. So I have a bayonet cap style lamp holder. If the camera will ever focus on that, there we go. So that's the size. So it's a brass one, and it has an earth lug on it. Very important, because we must earth that. Then you need a reducer for the base. So here is one reducer. Again, camera is not working with me. There we go. So that goes in there like so. Then we need our 10mm threaded insert. So again, camera won't play ball. There we go. And I have a lock nut on that as well. So we screw that in there. Then we wind up our lock nut. That will lock that in place, and then I have another nut to go on the bottom. So that just sits into our lamp just like that, and that nut goes on there. That locks that in place. Then obviously I have my 3-pin plug. We have to change every one of the fuses in this to 3 amp. All these 3-pin plugs, as I've explained in previous videos, they will come with a 13 amp fuse. We must downsize it to protect our cord or our flex. And the flex that I'm using is some of this hemp covered 3-cord flex. So it's just a nice classic old school looking rope type cord, or flex as I call it. And we also then have an inline switch to go on that, again just like that. So that's all the components I'm using for these lamps, as the camera refuses to play ball with me. So there we go, hopefully it's focused on that. So I have a couple of them wired up already, so You can see just the cord going in and out of that switch, just like that. So that's it. Again, the how-tos to do this, I have a full video on, so that's just the components you will need, and you will need that for each of those lamps. Now, it cost me 95 euros for the components for all 6 lamps, just for the few little bits and pieces. That's not including the cord. That's just the switch, the plug, and the bits for the actual lamp holder itself that I've shown you. So they are quite pricey. Okay guys, the lamps are all finished at last. And this is one of the longest projects I've done in a while, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video and hopefully you are still with me. So all the electrics are in. I just have a basic kind of LED bulb. It's kind of equivalent to a 40 watt incandescent. It's about a 4 or 5 watt bulb, and there's a lovely warm glow off them now. So all the inline switches are installed on the lovely rope cord, and that's it. The final touches, one final coat has been done to them, and they are now complete, and I am glad this one is over. So one thing I would say is just the walnut kumiko. I don't recommend using walnut for kumiko. It does get very brittle when you get down to those say 3mm thicknesses. I probably said that already in this video. I kind of forget where I'm at. This was filmed over a few weeks, so like I said, hopefully it all makes sense, the video, and you guys got something out of it. So that is the lamps finished. I'm going to roll in some close-ups so you guys can now see them, and I suppose now is the time to go through how much I've spent on these, how much hours I have put into them, and how much they've cost me, and how much I would need to sell them at. Let's discuss that now. Okay guys, let's try and put a figure on these lamps. Now, I've just jotted down a few prices, so I kind of have everything broken down here. Now, timber. About 70 euros worth of timber went into these lamps between the walnut, the maple, and the lime wood that I had in the shop. I used about 70 euros in total from the boards that I had in the shop. Say glue, sandpaper, finishing, sundries, that kind of thing, I allowed 20 euros for that. The electrics, so for the bulbs, the lamp holders, all the brass fittings, the rope cord, the inline switches, and the plugs, that all came to 160 euros. So electrical components are quite pricey for lamps, and electrical components are just going up and up and up all the time, so that is quite pricey. And the Shoji paper plus that paste for the Shoji paper, so that nori paste that I showed you guys that you need to use for your Shoji paper, that was a total of 40 euros. So a total of 290 euros on the materials just for these lamps alone. And I have a total of 40 hours labour gone into them. Now, like I said at the start of the video, I'm a qualified electrician. I'm self-employed for over 20 years. I've been in business for myself for 20 years. So I know what I have to charge minimum for my time in order to try and make a living. So when you're self-employed, you have to pay for everything yourself. So there's no safety net. You paddle your own canoe. So you must value yourself, and you must value your time. You must cover your own holiday pay, your own sick pay, your pension, your health care, all that stuff you must cover yourself, so you have to charge. And the minimum rate that I need to charge in my business for my work as an electrician, the absolute minimum for it to make any sense for me to be self-employed, is 45 euros an hour. Now, I often charge more than that because I have to for some jobs, but that would be the minimum rate that I would need to charge for me to actually make a living and to survive with all the costs of doing business being self-employed. So that's the rate I've applied to these lamps. So that's a total of 40 hours, which is a total of 1,800 euros in labour. Now let me know what you guys think about that, but like I said, I have 20 years experience being self-employed, so I know what it takes, and believe me, you won't get rich on that hourly rate. You will just get by. And so that's a total then, materials and labour, of 2,090 euros for the 6 lamps. And if you divide that by 6, you get 348 euros and 33 cents per lamp you would have to charge for these lamps in order to cover my time and my materials. Now, I don't know if you guys think they are worth nearly 350 euros. Somewhere in the region of 250 euros I think would be a fair price for these lamps. But like I said, let me know what you guys think. The whole experiment was to see how hard it is to make money woodworking. Can you make handmade bespoke pieces and charge enough to cover your time. That is the time and that is the money I reckon you would have to charge for these in order to do this as a living. So that's the whole point. Let me know in the comments, get in the comments, let me know what you think. What would you charge for these? Now, looking back on the whole process of making these, if I was to do more of these, I can think of ways of where I could speed that process up a bit. I could shave a few hours here and there, and I reckon I could get it down below the 40-hour mark. But you know, not much below the 40-hour mark. I was working hard to get these finished. So yeah, that's where I've ended up, guys. 348 euros per lamp if I was to price these as I do in my electrical job. So yeah, just to start a conversation, guys, and hopefully you found this video informative. Get in the comments and let me know what you guys think. And that's it. I'm going to get out of here now. And don't forget, guys, I have channel memberships set up. So if you guys want to support the channel, you can jump in and out. You can become a member for a month or 12 months or for however long you want. It's only the price of a cup of coffee. It's not even the price of a cup of coffee a month. And it helps me keep producing content. So well, that will be linked below. And I shall see you guys in the next video. Take care.